Call the Houston County Board of Adjustments to order.
First meeting on the agenda tonight is for Daryl Taylor. Received an application from Daryl Taylor of Union Township after the fact variance of 18 feet to meet the required 50-foot setback from the west property line. Site visit took place this afternoon at 3 o'clock out on the site. And we're going to continue the hearing tonight on this application at the Historic Courthouse Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia at 6:15. Houston County Board of Adjustment by Bob Scanlon, advertised November 5th, 2014. As I mentioned, we went out to the site this afternoon. It was tabled last month so that the board could go out and view the site and garner additional information that maybe couldn't be found last month at the hearing. Since that time, in fact, Tuesday, I received an email from the Taylors there, and you got that in front of you. Why don't you just take a couple minutes and read that, and then we'll resume from there. Okay. Just to kind of refresh your memory from last month, the pole shed was built for storage of hay, machinery, and horses, agricultural products. It's located about 32 feet from that west property line, and topography is the main reason for putting the shed there. So, turn it back over to Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have anything to add, or?
Oh, we talked this afternoon, I think it's too close to line. Gonna cause drifting and snow problem. I would like to see the shed either moved or 18 feet taken off.
One thing that I'd like to add to the message there is that we both share in that we do keep livestock, herd animals on either side of the fence. Neither of us keep them there in the wintertime at this time. We covered in the last meeting that portion of the fence, which seems to be the crux of the matter here, is Wayne's concerned with snow building up on that fence and tearing the fence down. We established last meeting that portion of the fence from the center line over to the north point is already my responsibility. I have just as much concern for the integrity of that fence, and always have for the 10 years that I've been there, 11 years that I've been there.
Well, I think there's going to be a problem with snow drifting in there.
Another thing that we didn't look at or discuss is we have the same condition essentially down that fence line. When you think of the wooded area that's down there, I have woods that I mow a path with my 5-foot rotary mower down the fence line, and some of the trees I get around that are up next to the fence that I can't get between. So it's presenting essentially the same condition for that fence, and we've not shown any concern for that or experienced any problems with that. Where we did place the building was in line. I don't know if you noticed there today, we've had an existing arena there, and the building was put in line with that arena line, which I plan to rebuild the arena this year. Also in that place, I'm dealing with probably less than 2 acres of where to place a building, and I thought I was being very prudent in deciding on a place that was the area that was gonna be least disturbed, or in other words, I was gonna have to move the least amount of ground or bring the least amount of ground in to keep it high in that cluster of building areas. I understand Wayne's concern. I have, every bit of reason to, care for, and I've been doing the same feeding pattern now for 10 or 11 years, and, I don't want to see that interrupted. That kind of goes in with the whole scheme of the limited space that I have. When we purchased that land, we had the choice to purchase across the lane for the same price. And my thought was, why take 30-plus tillable acres away from the local farmer when I'm not a farmer? And I chose the aggressive slope that we have because we had horses and I'm not a farmer. And so I now have approximately 8 tillable acres on that 40-acre piece that I thought it was really, to this point, keeping my local farmer in mind. And it's kind of hard to swallow right now that, yes, I know I made a mistake. I got some, bad information about agricultural buildings not needing a permit, and I apologize. I definitely learned my lesson and paid triple in the permit fees and the variance fees and all of that. And, it took me 3 months to build the building, and when I got notice of it, the building was basically finished, and it would just be a real hardship to have to move the building for me. It would be a real hardship.
Any more comments?
Are we allowed to discuss with
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you think of anything that would alleviate the problem, anything that would make this whole for you? As opposed to, I don't know what, I've been in construction all my life, but I have no idea what it's gonna cost to move a pole barn. I'm guessing it's not gonna get done for less than 10 grand. And I don't even, I'm an alternate here, so I'm not a pro at this, so I'm just wondering, is there anything that could be done short of requiring the movement of this building in order to make you whole?
Well, conditions can be put on variances. That condition that's put on the variance has to have a direct nexus to the reason for granting or granting a variance. You don't need a condition if you deny it. But if the issue is the fence and snow on it, you could propose a condition as to who would maintain, or the cost, of course, to maintain, or when it would be maintained, the fence, if that's the biggest issue, and make that a condition of any variance that might be granted.
Is that the only issue in your mind, or?
Well, it's the main one, because if the fence isn't properly fixed, our cattle get out on first place they're gonna go if they're on their hell. And then hell will break loose.
We just
Hell's
hope Shane
not
gets
gonna break loose from us, Wayne.
Well,
Seriously,
I don't know.
because we've already had calves, we've already helped get two cows in, basically.
They weren't ours.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know whose they were, but we were glad to help. I mean, we enjoyed helping. And the other thing is we are going to have our side completely fenced in, so that if that fence were to go down, there's going to be that entire fenced area. If you want to put that condition in, it will be fenced in and they will be corralled there. It won't be, there's going to be a secondary point. I actually took some fence down because I always put a temporary fence up between the arena and the property line fence, because we put our horses in, and then I put an electric fence down by our house. But we're gonna put permanent fencing in down by our house. That's all part of this plan to try to use this space for some horse activities. So we will have them corralled if that fence does deteriorate for whatever reason.
I don't know what we've ever done to make them dislike us so bad, but we've always tried to think about, you know, these are my roots. I come back here because there's a street in this town named after my family, and my grandfather brought rural electricity through Union Township, you know. I have roots here. And we stopped out by the Eagletons. There was cows out there one time. We stopped, we were both late for work. We helped get them in. There was a horse last year. We were on our way to Hoka one day and the Ross's cows were out. We stopped. We've helped Shane. We don't get mad at people. We stop and we help. You know, we helped Shane for probably a good hour, hour and a half or longer, chasing one of his calves just so we could, you know, he could get it back over there. We don't get mad about things like that. We've always wanted to work with them and talk with them and work things out, but, and I feel bad because I don't know what to do to say, can we just please talk about things? We'd be willing to help. We already know we're gonna have to take care of that piece of fence. That's ours to take care of, and we will take care of it. I mean, we plow the snow for all the way back to the barns, which is way past what we need. And we plow out the neighbors, and they don't ask us, and we don't, I would never expect them to even pay us for it. That's just what we do. I did it last winter by myself when he was gone to my son's baseball spring break. You know, I got out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I plowed the whole lane, and I plowed the neighbors all the way down their driveway, and it's just what you do for folks. That's the kind of neighbors we've always wanted to be. If this cattle got out, we would not yell. We'd say, what can we do to help? So that's just my 2 cents. Sorry.
You want to hear the
So-
criteria or anything, or?
I suppose,
Okay, I'll just go over the 6 criteria used to determine a variance. Number 1, is there substantial variation in relation to the requirement? 2, will the variance have a negative effect on governmental services? 3, will the variance affect a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood, or will there be a substantial detriment to neighboring properties? 4, can the practical difficulty be alleviated by a feasible method other than a variance? 5, how did the practical difficulty occur? Did the landowner create a need for the variance? 6, in light of all the above factors, will allowing the variance serve the interests of justice?
do I entertain a motion now?
Yep.
Any more questions? We want to make a motion to either issue the variance or to deny the variance.
Could we make a motion?
No, it's not.
Is there anything you can think of that could be done to resolve this?
Wayne, we're talking about a shared fence. And I want to share in being a neighbor and share, you know, be responsible for what I'm responsible for. We can give you that opportunity.
I don't know, it's,
I mean, if I commit to fencing in my area like I've suggested, would that, you know, if your cattle or the cattle that get placed in there, they're not there in the winter time, correct?
not right now, but we might do that in the future.
And if we do that in the future, can we come together and say, hey, what do I need to look for? Do I need to strengthen the fence? Do I need to, you know, do something to help out in that situation?
I don't know, it's just built too close, I think we're gonna have trouble, that's what I'm saying.
Can we at least, you know, let some water run under the bridge and see what it's gonna,
don't put this way. I just think there's gonna be a lot of problems there if you heavy snow.
If we get 8 feet of snow like they did in New York, I don't think anything's gonna be able to stop that fence. I guess, you know, the people I've talked to, I talked to Mr. Theobald, Theobald Lansing, and he just didn't see where that was going to deteriorate that fence, that it was gonna have an effect on the fence. Like I stated in there, I've got that fence line that runs completely up and down my lane. That's a much lighter duty fence. It's all metal posts. It gets completely covered with snow from snow being pushed on it. Because we plow the lane, we widen the lane, the snow blows, it's lower than the road. It gets completely covered, and it's been there for 10 years. And it hasn't deteriorated. The only place that's deteriorated is where I caught it with the rotary mower when I was trying to mow between the culvert and the fence. Or like, a bowl or two. I just don't see the integrity of that fence being an issue. If it becomes, you have my word, I'm going to fix it.
And we would,
And I won't be the one to ultimately professionally fix it. I will have somebody professionally fix it. I will do whatever I can temporarily.
No,
Something
variance
that
is
may
not
happen, but,
state property.
you know, I will have whomever the contractor was that did it the first time, or have Mr. Deal come out, but have somebody professional fix the fence. I think that would be a much, in my mind, a much more logical and less cost-effective way to mend a fence in a relationship.
Do I have to refer to which,
Right, and if there's a negative opinion on one of these, that's not reason to approve or deny.
okay,
It's just it's criteria to help you make your decision. And
so I
like I
do have
said,
to refer to these when, in terms of making the motion or not?
yeah,
Okay.
if there's a denial.
Okay.
If there's something that you can address through a condition, keep that in mind as well.
Meaning, I don't know exactly what you're saying.
Like a condition for maintenance of the fence, or, you know, that type of condition. And so, I mean, I don't want to make
Yep, I understand.
up your mind for you, but Oh, yeah.
Or send someone. Do you think you spaced it out?
I guess I can't imagine that there hasn't been other situations that have come up to where, I just can't believe this is the first time a situation has risen, where a variance has been given in a situation like this. Maybe if either one of you know, I don't know.
I don't know all the history either. I am going to have to make a motion that the variance be denied
Based on,
based on the fact that it was, and I don't disagree, we've all made mistakes, but the landowner created the need for the variance.
Number 5?
Number 5, that's correct.
but is that the only one that is egregiously? I mean, it's only one of the 5 criteria.
mhm.
I agree.
And I don't want to put you on the spot either. I feel bad that you weren't here last month, or that the other 2 guys that were here last month aren't here tonight, because that kind of weighs very heavy on you.
Which also weighs heavily on us. Bob, you know, I mean, I'm sure you've seen many situations out there.
Yeah, there's, this certainly isn't the first variance for a building within that certain distance. I mean, we've had buildings granted for variances closer, no doubt.
And I just don't understand that. It seems like we're really getting the raw end of the situation here, to not even being able to present a condition on it. So if others have been granted that have been closer than this, that have been more drastic than this, then
And we have paid the penalty of 3 times the cost of the fees.
Mhm.
So there's been a penalty incurred that we don't even incur.
Well, did you, was there a second, or, yeah, I have a second, you know,
I guess I'll second it.
okay.
So all in favor, signify by saying aye. We have some discussion.
Okay.
Any discussion on this before we,
When does this building have, when do we have to cut 18 feet off this building? Is that something that has to be done immediately? Because it's the middle of the winter and it's been really hard to get
We can-
anybody out there to do that.
I just really don't understand if there have been other situations that have been closer to fence lines than this.
It's
And
not
there have
worth
been
fighting.
conditions
It's
placed
a personal
on,
thing.
why can't we place a condition on this?
There is an appeal process too, that
Okay.
going to appeal this decision, so, I'll probably send a letter out to you asking you when it would work for you to either remove part of it or, tear it down or appeal. So that's kind of the next step,
Okay.
so, all right?
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Rides in your hands, I mean, I don't.
I didn't do it.
I know you didn't go.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I did already. I did.
Okay,
Okay, motion carried.
thank you.
Thanks for saying that.
Great job. This is a great job.
Go ahead to the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, what do you call it?
All right. Please take notice, an application was received from the following person for variance of setback requirements. John Dearson in the east half of Section 10, Township 102, Range 5 West, Mayville Township, a variance of 782 feet to meet the required quarter-mile setback from an expanding feedlot to an existing dwelling to build a freestyle barn. Hearing on this application will be held at the Historic Courthouse Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921 at 6:30 on Thursday, November 20th. Houston County Board of Adjustment by Bob Scanlon, advertised November 5th, 2014. Dearsons are looking to move some heifers and dry cows from the Lawrence Gavin Farm onto the home dairy. And in order to do that, they'd like to build a freestyle barn to house them. Reason for doing that is just to get the cattle on one spot, make it more efficient, that type of thing. The closest home is 538 feet away, right directly north of the dairy, across the road, owned by the Jennings family. Currently, I don't believe there's anybody living there. When there is somebody there, I think it's a rental, but they're planning to expand from 221 animal units to 287 of dairy cattle, heifers, and calves. So,
That was 221 to 287?
yeah.
And he's just bringing cattle home from Gavin's to keep them at home for
Yep.
less travel. And
Real close.
is there anybody here that's against this or for it, or have anything to say? Anything you want to ask or say?
I'm not at all clear on the purpose of a quarter-mile setback and moving that setback down almost 2/3 to 538 feet. My concern is, since we have no one in the audience, my concern is what happens when someone does live here, someone buys it, that is going to have issues with a feedlot being that close.
Well,
282 family units is not a great number of units, so it may not be any problem at all. But what I don't know is any history on the feedlot requirement variance. It's not a,
the reason for the quarter mile is to basically keep non-farm dwellings separate from livestock operations, to protect the agricultural integrity of the county. Houston County is a ag county and it's livestock based. It's to allow that to keep going as an economic driver for the county. Part of, and I guess I should have expanded on that too, was part of some of the determinations that we use to help determine if a variance should be granted is what we call an offset model. An offset model is a computer model generated by the University of Minnesota for feedlots to help determine, for one thing, like odors and the impacts of odors to neighboring properties. So when I run the offset model on this farm at that distance, it tells me that 94 to 95% of the time that person across the road at that distance will not smell anything. It'll be
with that number of units, or
right.
is it
With
based
the buildings,
on the number of animal units?
Yep,
Your
it's
offset model is, or-
based on the type of animals, the type of housing, and the number of animals, and that distance. And it's only from April till October, November, the warm parts of the year. In December, spreading manure, it freezes right away. There's no odor to speak of. So,
And I think he's planning on tearing that house down across the road, because it's not, you can't live in it.
oh really?
Yeah.
It's condemned, you mean, or?
It's close to being condemned, I heard.
It's old.
It's a very old house. It's probably gonna be torn down in the near future.
So my next question then is, would a new permit be granted for a new house on that property, likely, or not?
More than likely.
Not necessarily.
No, it's true.
They'd have to apply for variance within that distance from a feedlot. So whether this new freestyle barn was built or not, if Jim Jennings wants to tear that old house down and replace it, he needs to apply for a variance. So, and in Houston County, we don't protect housing, we protect farms. So that's kind of the gist of the land use plan and the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion to deny or to issue the variance for John Dearson?
Maybe I should go through the findings again,
Yeah,
huh?
better go through the findings one more
Okay.
time.
And one, is there substantial variation in relation to the requirement? Two, will the variance have a negative effect on governmental services? Three, will the variance affect a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood, or will there be a substantial detriment to neighboring properties? Four, can the practical difficulty be alleviated by a feasible method other than a variance? Five, how did the practical difficulty occur? Did the landowner create a need for the variance? Six, in light of all above factors, will allowing the variance serve the interest of justice?
Can I entertain a motion to either grant it or deny it?
One more quick question. Did he consider extending this distance at all by going at another point on the homestead footprint, or?
Well, the reason he's proposing it there is because of a future plan to build manure storage south of his buildings.
south of the building?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pushing out his existing freestyle barn and this proposed one, he'd be able to push out the manure into that future manure basin.
And that basin
have-
would be behind all of his buildings too.
It would be a downhill gravity flow system to it. So that's the reason he chose it. It's a topography issue and just the feasibility of his existing farm site and, you know, future need for manure storage.
And the family 1,100 feet away, they had no opposition to this at all?
Davies?
No, they were sent a notice of the meeting and
Township and all 10 surrounding landowners. We didn't get any calls on that one.
Okay, I'll make a motion that this variance be granted.
And if you grant a variance, you know, you're just saying that we've gone through the criteria and nothing says you.
I don't have to.
Okay.
That's fine.
We have a motion to grant the variance, and I'll second it. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Okay.
It's the first one, right?
Oh,
Hang
that's
on
Taylor.
here.
That's Taylor. That's
Yeah,
fine.
okay, yep,
Am I okay?
Yep.
This is John's here, right?
right, yep,
Top,
you
the
got it.
top line then.
All right. One to go.
Yep. I guess we could start on that one too, huh?
Yep, might as well get at it.
Please take notice an application was received from the following person for variance of setback requirement. Bob Cook of Cook Dairy, Section 18, Winnebago Township. Variance is 575 feet to meet the required quarter-mile setback requirement from an expanding existing feedlot to an existing dwelling to build a freestyle barn. Hearing on this application will be held at the Historic Courthouse Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921 at 6:45, Thursday, November 20th, 2014. Houston County Board of Adjustment by Bob Scanlon, advertised November 5th, 2014. Cooks, they're in Winnebago Township. Their closest neighbor would be 745 feet to the northeast. They're planning to expand from 482 to 700 animal units on what he calls Tony's Place, which is off the dairy site. They keep dry cows and young stock on that site, mostly heifers. The reason for the increase in animal units is similar to what Deersons are planning. It's to bring cattle off of rented farms onto the home, well,
Gonna bring cattle all home again, get them near, closer to home.
right, make it more efficient for chores and manure handling and everything else that goes with it. So that's about all I have to add.
Anybody call complaining or anything?
Just Thor. He's the closest. He's okay with it.
He's okay with it? Okay.
This is the Snake Point Holdings?
Yeah.
Yep.
What was your percentage of problem report on this one? Did you have it?
Around 94% again. There, because it's a little farther away. It's a dairy site. Anytime you're talking dairy, the offset model doesn't show a big impact on neighboring properties. If it's confinement hogs and you're closer, 400 or 500 feet away, that's going to be a different number. But these freestyle barns or loafing barns with dairy cattle, and especially young stock, just does not have a huge impact on neighboring properties as far as odor is concerned.
And if the property were to change hands and it moved to like a beef unit, would that 900 substantially change?
No, there again, if it's, well, it wouldn't be beef, but if they did switch to beef, be a similar situation, because you're talking bedding pack, manure, that type of thing, so.
No manure pits. There's no manure pits. They'll be cleaning, scraping, and hauling. We have a motion to deny or to issue this variance.
You want me to read this again?
Yes, you better read the findings first.
Okay, just to make sure we're doing it right. Is there substantial variation in relation to the requirement? 2, will the variance have a negative effect on governmental services? 3, will the variance affect a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood, or will there be a substantial detriment to neighboring properties? 4, can the practical difficulty be alleviated by a feasible method other than a variance? 5, how did the practical difficulty occur? Did the landowner create a need for the variance? 6, in light of all above factors, will allowing the variance serve the interest of justice?
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
I can't, I'm the chairman. You have to make it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I make a motion, we grant this variance.
I'll second it. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Done deal.
All right. I don't know, said he was gonna be here.
You wanna make a motion to approve the last board meeting minutes? Or do
Yep.
we need that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the minutes, but I don't know.
Okay.
I have some.
I sent them in your packet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's pretty-
Second, I can
It's in your
get
packet.
glasses.
Kinda like me, can't see nothing wrong.
You sent the minutes to me.
Would it look like this?
Yeah, you kind of look like this. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, second, very good, you had it.
Mhm. Right underneath that first
Yeah,
page.
right under your agenda.
There's the last minute. The last meeting.
Oh, okay.
We always approve them at the end.
So, you want me to read the minutes?
No, you don't have to
Is
read
that
it.
what you said?
You don't have to read them.
Oh,
We
really?
always
If
approve
you're
them
in your
at-
enemy, you just gotta approve them then.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second it. All in favor by saying aye? Aye.
I just need to adjourn.
Somebody wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
All right.